Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. Today we'll present another great meeting and program with Alain Trudel, the new Director of Music, Toledo Symphony Orchestra. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask Father Ronald Chesky to come to the podium to deliver a reflection, and Emily Skilleter will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord God, we are mindful of what has been said, that music is the speech of angels, that music is the universal language of mankind. In every religious tradition, we find music as a means of offering praise to God. And in every civilization, we find music to be ennobling. We find that music makes us more human. And so, Lord, we ask your blessing today on all those who ennoble humanity through music, especially on our speaker and on our own wonderful symphony orchestra. May music continue to make us more human, and may music also unite us more closely to you, as through it we offer you praise and worship. To this prayer we say, Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Ron and Emily. As we begin our meeting today, I'd like to thank and acknowledge Yark Automotive Group, this month's sponsor. I'm not sure, do we have visiting Rotarians today? If not, if you have a guest, we do have one visiting Rotarian, I'm sorry. We'll get him, that's right, we have one from Iowa today.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and fellow Rotarians. It's our pleasure to welcome today Doug Zeithamel. He's a Rotarian from Iowa, and his son is our associate principal violist with the Toledo Symphony, and he's a guest, and please welcome him. Welcome. Great to have you guys. Nice to have you. Now, if anyone has a guest they would like to introduce, please go to the floor mic.
President Dick, it's my pleasure to introduce Carter Baer, who is with Concept Rehab as an analyst and is considering joining our club.
President Dick and fellow Rotarians, I brought my newest colleague. She's from Monroe, Michigan, Nicole Bellino. She's a certified financial planner with our practice.
Great. Welcome, Nicole.
President Dick and fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce my friend Tom Blank. Tom and I both served with Troop 87, and we were both members of the choir. Tom sings baritone, and I sing tenor, which in layman's terms means one of us, he wears boxers and I wear briefs.
Let's hear something, Chuck.
I will never follow you again.
It's a good rule.
Because I'm not telling. President Dick, I'm pleased to introduce my guest today, Brad Lagouche, who is the Executive Director of the Toledo Bar Association and a prospective member.
Good. Welcome, Brad.
Hi, President Dick. I have with me the Director of Individual Giving at the Toledo Symphony, Ron Papke. Thank you for having him.
Welcome to you all. Thank you for being here today. We're sure you'll enjoy the program. Now would be a great time to check into social media to let everyone know you are at the Rotary Club of Toledo regular meeting. Then I urge you to turn off your phones so we can all enjoy the gift of Rotary today. I'd like to invite Brent Kuzno back to the floor mic to give us a membership update.
Good afternoon yet again. It's great to give you a little update. On behalf of our committee, we had our kickoff meeting just recently. And really stat-wise, to keep us all up to date, Emily was kind enough to let me know that as of the end of last week, we have 11 new members, And we have 430 folks like us sitting here today that are members. Our goal remains 75 new members, so we're getting in the right direction. Remember last year we had 60, so it's very attainable, we totally believe. And I will also say that we've had our normal attritions, nothing unusual there in terms of every year people do leave for various appropriate reasons. The last little note is that, as you may remember last week, there was mention of we have 16 of our Rotarians who are nominated for 240, and next Monday in the evening there will be an event. And if you go to 20under40toledo.com, you can buy a ticket. We want to be there to support folks, and frankly, there's going to be probably almost 200 nominees, which is really unprecedented. So it will be a wonderful way for us to network with others that might be interested in Toledo Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Now I'd like to invite Rick Marshall to the mic to talk about Zoo Day coming up on the 28th of September.
Thank you, President Dick and fellow Rotarians. Yeah, we have a great Toledo Rotary tradition coming up on Friday, September 28th. It's the Disability Services Committee's annual Zoo Day. We really want to encourage everyone to participate, particularly if you're a new member. It's a terrific, fun event. We link up with the students from Glendale Fieldbach Elementary School and spend the day at the zoo with them. And they have a great time, but I know that our Rotarians get a tremendous amount out of it each year as well. So we will meet at the zoo at 9 a.m., spend the time with the kids. We'll join together for lunch at the pavilion at 11:30 and wrap up early afternoon. So please, you can sign up online at the Rotary website or check the link in your spoke. So look forward to seeing everybody there. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. It is a great program, and I encourage you, especially if you haven't done it before, it's a great day at the zoo with the kids from Glendale Fieldbach. I'd now like to invite Brian Epstein to the floor mic for an announcement.
Thank you, President Dick and Rotarians. Just wanted to let you guys know, last time we were here, a couple months ago, there is a diversity inclusion internship program through the state of Ohio. So if you are a business who is looking for an intern this fall or through the spring, you can apply online, and the state will actually pay 2/3 of the internship, up to $10,000 at $15 intern. So we do have some flyers outside on the Rotary table if you'd like to take that. But again, if any of you are looking for an intern, the state actually will help match that for you for the fall and spring. So great, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And now it is always my pleasure to invite our Executive Director, Kathy Tate, to the podium for a couple announcements.
Thank you, President Dick. Walt likes for me to stand on this little box because of my height. So thank you all for your attention. I know every week we have a lot of announcements and information that we present, and we really do think about what we're going to say, and sometimes it's a lot, and today I think there's at least 5 announcements, so I appreciate your attention. One, which is near to me and dear to me just because it's so much fun, is the annual Euchre Fellowship begins, or has started. The first game is this Friday night. I think I have 14 people signed up. I'd like to get to 20. But I need at least 2 more. So if you'd like to play, it's in the Brandywine community. It's a BYOB, and it's not like you come with your partner and you're just going to play with that person all night. That's your partner. You switch around, and whoever has the most points at the end of the night wins everybody pays $5 if we do that again. But it's a lot of fun. So let me know if you want to play this Friday night. Second, I don't know if you've noticed or paid attention in the spoke, but we are planning a visit to Rotary International Headquarters in Evanston on October 19th. And tomorrow is the deadline for the room rate that I have on the block of rooms at the Hilton of 159. Let me know if you would like to go. Again, tomorrow, you can still go. You don't even have to stay overnight. But a group of us are going to go up Thursday night, October 18th. And we'll be at Rotary International Headquarters on the 19th. It's a wonderful opportunity. if you're interested to learn more, a little in-depth, and Rotary International does a wonderful job of hosting us. It's not a waste of time, and you might want to stay in Chicago for the weekend. So those are my 2 Rotary office updates. And now, it is my pleasure to present a Paul Harris Fellow to a fellow Rotarian. And for those of you, I don't know if you know why we do this, there's so many announcements. Paul Harris was the founder of Rotary in 1905. And at some point, I think I read 1957, Rotary International decided to establish a level of giving to the Rotary International Foundation of $1,000. And it's about 2 things for me. Giving money to Rotary International Foundation, which comes back to us through matching grants. It can fund anything in the entire world. So it does that from a good perspective of giving. Second, it recognizes someone whose service above self has been like to the 10th power or something for me. And Brian Kennedy, who I met 6 years ago when I stepped into the role of executive director, this being Brian Kennedy, has always said yes. When I stepped into this role, he's a CPA, by the way, so he's a numbers guy. And I had a lot to learn, and I think, seems like it was like my second week, he said, I don't know if he'll remember this, but he said, do you want me to come up to your office and I can help you work on the books? And I said, no. I just wasn't ready. And so for the last 6 years, I've called him on so many occasions. And what I've done is every time I just call him so much, I've just taken him bottle after bottle after bottle of wine. That's what I've been doing because he likes wine. And then I can't give him enough wine because, I have to keep, no, what I meant was, okay. I told him I wouldn't embarrass him too much, but I think when someone awards a Paul Harris, it just means that you want to thank them, you want to acknowledge them, his service to our Rotary Club. I call him my brother from another mother. I think I have a lot of brothers from another mother. Today, we just termed that I found out he has a nickname called Axeman, which at first I thought it was from the Seinfeld episode, which is a different consonant, but Axeman, because he's a bird hunter. I'm going off. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present Brian Kennedy with a Paul Harris Fellow because he has done so much for our club and so much for me personally. So, thank you.
As much as all these years have passed, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Kathy. It's been, as you've already heard, some jokes pretty much every time I go to the office, every discussion. There's something usually going on, but very honored to receive this and very happy to be a member of this greatest club for Rotary International. Thank you.
Brian has asked me not to say anything about him after that, so I do like to highlight Rotarians in the news. And is Keith Burwell here today? At any rate, you might have seen this. Toledo Rotarian Keith Burwell has been named to a panel that will advise the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland on how emerging economic and social issues are affecting the average American. Keith will be part of a 15-member panel representing Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and West Virginia that will provide the Cleveland Fed's community development staff with feedback on policy and programs affecting workforce and economic development, housing affordability, and access to credit for small businesses. So I want to congratulate Keith on this honor. Saturday, we had a great day out at Spuyten Duyvil with the Jim Vassar Memorial Golf Outing. I believe we had 25 foursomes out there and had a lot of fun. And Jim Vassar was on the board, the first time I was on the board, and just a great gentleman, and his family and friends They put together a great outing every year. The funds from the outing help the Rotary, our Toledo Rotary Foundation, the Hickman Cancer Center at Flower Hospital, and the American Brain Tumor Association. So all those involved, again, it was a great event, and I hope to see you all out there next year. My last announcement today is about Polio Plus at the Pub, October 3rd. We talked about this last time. The tickets are $10, supports Polio Plus through Rotary International. It's going to be a great social event if you've been to the Paula Brown Pub on Monroe Street. It's a lot of fun. Right after work on October 3rd from 5 to 7:30. You can get tickets online at the Rotary website. We're also going to be selling them right outside the door the next couple of meetings. $10 gets you in, gets you food from Sidon Restaurant, free entertainment, and just a great time. So we understand there might be a little conflict with the initial bowling event that night, but we're trying to negotiate with Mayor Tommy Romer, the bowling czar, on working something out there. But we're hoping you can come to the Polio Plus. Please invite your friends and family. At this time, I'd like to invite Erwin Effler to the podium to introduce new member Rob Kelligan.
Rob, step up here. I want you to get a good view of this because there's a lot of this in your future. It's a view from a different point of view. Thank you. My fellow Rotarians, I am very pleased to stand here today before you and talk about our new member, Rob Keelahan. Rob started his real estate career 18 years ago in Chicago with Inland Real Estate while attending the University of Chicago. He graduated with a degree in finance and concentrated on retail investment and multifamily sales. In 2002, Skeldon Good and Company recruited Rob to develop their new commercial brokerage team. 2004, Rob moved to Sussex and Riley, a boutique residential brokerage where he concentrated on construction in luxury homes, condominiums, commercial brokerage on Chicago's north side. Over the 4 years, he developed over $40 million in property, and in 2007, Rob was named one of the top 40 under 40 by Metro Chicago Real Estate and also was awarded the Good Neighbor Award, an award I've never won. From the Chicago Association of Realtors for a historic renovation at the Gift Theater. From 2008 to 2014, Rob worked in construction and property management services with Aspen Contracting, Key General Contracting, and TSI. Rob's wife, Carrie Ullman, convinced him to move to native Toledo in late 2014. They happily reside in Old Orchard and have had two beautiful children, Patrick and Kiernan. Rob started with Signature and Associates in March of 2015. You might have seen some of his yellow signs around with his name in neon, where he sold or leased over $30 million in properties in a little over 3 years. Rob specializes in downtown office buildings, apartment sales, and suburban industrial properties. He is licensed in Michigan and Ohio and is pursuing the CCIM and SIOR designations. And he has other designations and certificates that have more letters than the alphabet, so I won't go into them. Rob, it's our pleasure to have you in Rotary. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, everyone. I really look forward to getting to know everybody a little better and hopefully working with you and serving our community. Thank you.
This time I'd like to ask Zach Vassar to the podium to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, President Dick. And before anybody makes the obvious short man joke, I am not using Kathy's little stool. But I do encourage you, Kathy, to say, in the music world, we call them podiums. Yeah. So it is my great pleasure, on behalf of the Toledo Symphony, to be introducing our new music director, Alain Trudel, today. But before we do, I'd like to encourage anybody here today with us who is a Toledo Symphony musician, a member of our Board of Trustees or Board Fellows, or a member of our staff to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. We have a wonderful team at the Toledo Symphony, and I'm very excited to have all of you with us today. I'd also like to recognize the man who just stood up, Yuval Zalyuk, who's our conductor emeritus of the Toledo Symphony. Yuval, would you care to stand again? When somebody asked him, what does a conductor do? He said, makes cookies. We'll find out what Alain Trudel has to say about that in just a minute. So when Alain accepted our offer of music director, this is a little over a year ago, my wife and I bought him T-shirts and coffee mugs that were emblazoned with the now familiar, "You Will Do Better in Toledo." And he is about to do better in Toledo this weekend, as that marks his official debut as music director of the Toledo Symphony. This makes him the 9th music director of our orchestra, which also is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year, so you guys can do the math. In addition to serving as our music director here in Toledo, Alain is the music director of the Symphony Orchestra of Laval, which is just north of Montreal. And he also has appointments with the National Arts Centre in Canada, as well as the Ottawa Symphony Orchestra. In March 2017, he did a world debut, world premiere of Roger Waters' opera adaptation of The Wall, which won wonderful reviews from worldwide press, from La Figaro in France all the way to Rolling Stone here in the States. This past summer, he conducted the U.S. premiere of the same opera down in Cincinnati. If anybody of you got to see that, it was certainly something worth remembering. My notes just turned off, so we have to turn this back on. There we go. He set box office records in Cincinnati for his performances there, and I hope he brings the same sort of revenue success here to Toledo. In addition to being a wonderful conductor, Alain is a trombone virtuoso. That's a major faux pas in my world, earning a recognition as the Jascha Heifetz of the trombone. He has numerous recordings as both conductor and trombonist. He's been nominated for Juno Awards, which is the Canadian equivalent of the Grammy Award, as well as, I learned today, Gemini Award, which is the German equivalent of the Oscar, which he lost to Yo-Yo Ma. So if you have to learn, he's a good guy to learn from. He received the Jubilee Medal from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth for his contributions to the arts. He has 3 adult children, Elizabeth, Olivier, and Alexei, and he and his wife, Mary Elizabeth, have a charming daughter, Madeleine, who turns 2 this weekend. 21st, the night of his opening with the Toledo Symphony. Alain is a jovial friend. He is a wonderful, wonderful communicator, as you'll see in just a moment when I stop talking. He is a fine man, and he has already won perhaps the most sincere commendment from our orchestra in that he is a sincere musician. Alain Trudel.
Thank you very much. Well, I don't make cookies, I'm sorry, but they're wonderful. Not yet, yes. Thank you so much for having me today to speak to you. It's always a little bit mysterious what an orchestra conductor does. And I would like to take you a little bit behind the scenes and a little bit unveil some of the mystery, because it's not that mysterious, but you go to a concert and you see somebody doing this and you see, well, do they need to be there? Or, no, but I mean, all kinds of things come. So let's go through a little bit what the orchestra is. So I brought a few slides here. What's important for us is that it's a really microcosm of the society. So you have people in the orchestra of all ages, all levels in their careers, all kinds of life experiences. And basically, as a conductor, we try to bring everybody together. So we're talking maybe somebody who's fresh out of the university, somebody who's been in the orchestra for 40 years, and they have to play together and have the same vision, the same idea, and we go as one together. So that's kind of the challenge a little bit behind this, and we'll talk more about it as I go on today. I'll go to the next one. Yes, it works. Fantastic. Thank you. I had a little class with Walter, and he did very well. So he's a good communicator as well. So this, I know you don't see all the little details. That's not important. I would like to tell you a little bit. Most of you know, but what's the layout? Our workplace. Some people that work in offices, but we work on the stage. So basically, everybody sees you at work, sees you do your good stuff, and also sees you making mistakes. So it's a little bit of a pressure situation all the time to play in an orchestra. As you will notice, the conductor never makes mistakes, right? Because he never makes a sound. So, no, but that's very important to remember, that you do not make a sound. You encourage everybody to make the same kind of sound, beautiful sound together. And sometimes, this is going to be there for a little while. When I was younger, I played a lot in the Montreal Symphony in the days of the autocratic conductors. And it was, of course, it's not like that anymore, right? We don't live in an era where people can continue being this way, but you would be humiliated, you would be picked on, and make you play by yourself. Or you can. There's like 16 violins in the first, or 14 depending on the orchestra, or it's sometimes 20, and the conductor would go like, "Okay, you play alone. Okay, now you, and it was not a very healthy way to work. But it came from decades and decades of doing it this way. People got results from putting pressure. And as you know very well, when you put pressure on somebody, they will give you a result right away, but there's nothing that stays. They do not retain any of the learning, or what learning they retain is that, my job equals pain, right? So we've been trying for a few decades now. I wouldn't say more than 20 years, actually, 15, 20 years, to actually learn through joy, and learn, because there's always a deadline. There's limited rehearsals. But there's enough to do our job, right? And sometimes conductors can be very, I shouldn't say that because I'm a conductor, but they're very insecure people sometimes, and they like to share the insecurity with the rest of the orchestra, and that makes everybody nervous, and for some reason they get less nervous because of that. That's not the way to go, because of course people are, and there's a way. I'm a big hockey fan, as you might know. I'm from Canada, and my team, unfortunately, in Montreal, has for many years gone under the concept of not winning, but not losing. And a lot of time, I remember when I played in the orchestra, I was playing and just really hoping not to mess up, And that's not a way that you make a beautiful music. And the public notices it, because you're sitting there and you're going, wow, this is great. I finished my job today. I've decided to come here. When you're competing, the entertainment dollars, you're competing with the movies which have, how do you call it, PHX sound, and many, many things that are very entertaining. Why would you go to a concert? Well, you can really relax and get into a zone live with other artists. And that's where the concert happens, between the public and the artist. Somewhere in the middle there's some magic that happens. You can play very, very efficiently, very well, but not make any magic. That's possible. Sometimes you hear that, and you think that you're wrong as a public. You go like, well, that was correct, but the orchestra is super well known. It must be me, right? Well, often it's not you. Is that something was happening? It didn't go past the end of the stage. So what we're really working on, and for me, my motto is that I want everybody to take chances. I want everybody to play the best they can. My job is to get people to play the best that they can. Of course, sometimes you have to, there's less time. You have to organize everything, and there's a time limit. But there's no way that this means that you can be mean to people, that you can be inhuman. Whoa. Something changed there. Okay, so we're going to go through the layout of the orchestra. The layout as I like it. If we can come back to the normal size of this, thank you. So as you see on each side, in the middle there, the little semicircle, that's the conductor, and that's the edge of the stage. You have the first violins on my right, and the left are the second violins. Now, it's not what I have in front of me on the piece of paper where people are sitting, is the music, right? so and then next to them, I like, and that's the way I put them in the orchestra. They can be in another position. They can be first, second, next to the second, first, next to the second. But the reason I do that is to have some polyphonic to the orchestra. So you hear, often they play the same music, and you hear them from each side. It's like a stereo effect. It's really nice. Okay, then we have the cellos that are right next to them, and then you have the viola. So these are the string team, if you want. And then in the back, the blue ones there, you have the woodwinds, and then you have the French horns next to it, the other blue one. You saw the yellow one are the harps and piano, when you have that. In the back, you can see that the horns, the clarinet, they're part of the. I put the horns with the woodwinds because the horns are special because they play in two families. They play with the brass, the fanfares, and they play the really soft things with the woodwinds. Now, you have the basses that I like to have in the back because they preside over the orchestra. And they give us the pulse, the pulsation, the beat. So it's good to have them in the back. And on the side, you have the percussion and the brass. Now, amongst these people, which are all leaders because they all know their part better than, they're highly, highly professional musicians. You have leaders amongst leaders. That's how I like to call them. As you see the black dots, they're all the principals of the orchestra. So when, for example, if I make a comparison, it's not great in sports, but I'll make one anyway. So if you have the conductor would be more like the coach and not the captain of the team, right? Because he doesn't go on the field, he doesn't play the game, but he prepares the troops. So you have the concertmaster, which is the one on the left here down. So this person is actually the captain of the team. That, the oboe player, and a little bit of all those black dots there, they're pretty much each of them kind of captain of their section, and they're accountable for that. When something doesn't go quite well, they with their colleagues, they work together. But they are the leaders of that. To recruit those people, we have to go through an extensive search. Now, I'll go quickly through that. To leave some time for questions if you have after. But sometimes you always wonder, how do you get in the orchestra? How do you get to play in the orchestra? Well, you have to pass an audition. Now, the way we found pass an audition, which is very, how are you fair to everybody? So what we have is we have a screen, and everybody comes, plays exactly the same music for about 3 minutes. And it's like the Olympics a little bit for them, because you prepare, and you get 3 minutes, you play 4 or 5 different extra, maybe 5 minutes, and you play, and then there's a jury on the other side of the curtain, and we decide who passes, who doesn't pass to the next round. It's very difficult, and mentally it's difficult for the musicians because you might be there all day. If there's 50 people and you're number 2, and you have to wait for a while to know if you're passing, and then you go again, and then you go again, by the time the day is over, you really deserve it when you want it. And so, and we keep the wall there until the finals. It's very important because there's no discrimination. The person who wins it fair and square. We know nobody that maybe some people have a preference for this player that's, that they know already. No, it's just fair and square. Now, after you've done all of this, prepared, auditioned, spent all, day getting there and finally winning the job, then you get a 1 year or 2 probation period. And that's the performance review. That's the equivalent of performance review. We see them, I think, when I was younger, you would get a letter if there was a problem within the year and saying, well, it's not going to work out. How do you get better, right? So now we have to deal also with a new generation of musicians or new generation in the workplace where they need a lot of feedback. Very often. And I think it's good, actually, because, we get to sit down and maybe get better at what they do. Sometimes you get a player that's really good at playing the big solos, but in the section they stick out a little bit. Or they're really good at playing in symphonies, but in concertos they're a little bit late with the soloists. You can say those things, and those things can get better. So it's very important. My responsibility is to do it in a context that they don't feel threatened, but that they feel, I tell them early enough, I say, well, let's sit down and let's talk about it. Now, of course, there are mechanics to that. You have somebody from the union who comes. You have somebody who represents the musician, the committee in the orchestra, which is totally normal. Because I think a lot of our experience are based in the hundreds of years past where there was a lot of abuse, right? So it's normal, and I think it's just good to have that. So once you go through that, we need to keep them. And that's a challenge to keep, because you get the best of the best coming to the audition. Oh, yeah, but there's Chicago next month. Oh, yeah, but there's Berlin Philharmonic coming up. You need to find projects. You need to find a repertoire that will make them feel like they really, this is something they want to do. Also make them feel really welcome in the community. I have to say that you guys have done a fantastic job at that, because since I've arrived, I felt so welcome and aligned. Our priorities are aligned. And when I did my audition, by the way, conductors are always auditioning. And that's true. When you guest conduct an orchestra, let's say I go and guest conduct an orchestra I've never been to, there's a sheet on every musician's stand while you're conducting that says, so, you write the name of the conductor. What do you think of his beat? What do you think of his demeanor? Should we have him again? Should we have him for a pop? Should we consider him from something? How is he with the musician? And you have, basically, it's a ABC, right? Good. No, I don't know if they go past good, but anyway. And then they go, and they're writing this as you're rehearsing with them. So it's very interesting. It's another world, you know. But once you're hired as a music director, as I am, it's a contract. It's like a coach. You're hired for a few years, and the contract is renewed or not renewed, depending on if your message goes through, right? So it's very important to choose wisely at the beginning, and I think we have a good. Anyway, in my opinion, we have a good match here, because when I came in, I said my priorities are, I want to have an accent, of course, on the excellence. But nobody shows up on stage not wanting to be excellent. Everybody shows up on stage and they say, I want to play the best I can, and I want to play the best with my colleagues I can. But my job is to create a workplace that we can become even better every time we play. And as I told you before, if you go like this all the time, then it doesn't really do anything good. It does something good for 2 minutes, but then it's way worse after. So you have to plan ahead. And the way to do this well is to plan. Like, for example, I go back to sports. I love sports. My two favorites, of course, are hockey, but football also. NFL especially. So we have one in Canada. You probably heard of it too. No? Okay. CFL. CFL. It's okay too. Yeah. So the preparation is important. As much as you're going to prepare plays in a game, you have to prepare your rehearsals. What are we going to rehearse? You know, you do an entire plan that is ready to be completely changed after the first half hour that you're on stage, because, oh, it's not what I thought. Okay, this is going way better than I thought. This is not going as well. So you rechange your priorities in this, but people know what they have to prepare for each day. And that's very important, because then the players feel respected. There are little things like that didn't happen when I was young. I'll give you an example. I'm a trombone player. I'm a trombone player. And we usually come in at the most important point in the symphony, the end. So we always say that, right? But for example, Beethoven Fifth, which we are playing this week, trombones come in at the beginning of the fourth movement, right? So the first rehearsal is normal. We read everything and you're there. But sometimes I would show up to rehearsal. The conductor would not plan his time, well, and I wouldn't play. I'd be 2 hours and a half waiting like this. And, oh, well, did you think of maybe telling us we're not required today? Or those little things, they're the way you manage your human capital in front of you. They feel good about coming to work, or they feel like, this is going to be whatever, or they feel like I'm going to be abused, or I feel this is going to be great. There's something we're moving towards something. There are goals, and we're going to meet those goals. So that's very important in that. So that's another thing that keeps the talent here also, is that you might go to an orchestra that might pay more, but it will not be a good working environment. Or also, it might not be that you play the repertoire you like, or that you don't have a good rapport with the conductor. Let's keep going. Conflict resolution. That's interesting, because, once you're in the orchestra, you have your tenure, you're a permanent player, so you're there for life. Like, again, I'm coming back to sports. Do you know when you don't have it anymore? When it's time in French, as we say, accrocher ses patins. Time to hang the skates, and things like that. That's very, very difficult, for all of us. I mean, I will go through that too. I mean, we'll all go through that. So if you treat this in a human way, and everybody's watching you as you're dealing with that, because remember, we're in the working place, but our working place doesn't have cubicles or offices. It's everybody together at the same place all the time. So how do you deal? The players are not deaf. They hear it if something's going on with them or with somebody else. So they're going to say, oh, how is the conductor going to deal with that? Because we need to get better, but we also adore our colleague. So the important thing is to create transitions and to create bridges that brings you to the next part of your career, to the end or something like that. So that's very, very, that's probably the most difficult part of the job. Hiring is great. We all love that. But at the end, and sometimes you get it, it's just not a good fit. Once I had a leadership position in the orchestra. It was a terrible fit. We had to do something about it, And it takes a long time. It takes about 2-3 years because you have to meet, and 6 months later you give more time. And you have to give all the chances in the world for somebody to do their job great, because that's all we want. All of us want that too. If it doesn't happen, then at least the person feels they gave me every single chance to do it. That's very important. In the past, I used to play in an orchestra in Barcelona in Spain. And we had a conductor, probably the most, when you think of a maestro, that the autocratic and almost a tyrant. We had a tyrant. We'd start a piece and the second clarinet didn't do very well. He stopped. He said, he didn't even talk to the players. We were like, that's kind of a power trip. I don't know what it is, but anyway. So, and we do it again. At the break, the clarinet player said, well, it's the problem following the beat and all that. Next day wasn't there. So he was just basing hiring, firing like that. Of course, the orchestra was incredibly stressed. We played perfect sometimes, but I can't really remember a performance. And he was a great musician, that conductor, but can't remember really a performance where we played like we could have, And it's really, really important to be able to do that. Can we go back to so the conflict resolution. So that's a little bit, how we deal with talent. Now, the demographic of the orchestra, I was talking about the generations, the different generations in the orchestra. So you have somebody who comes in, imagine this, you're working in a team, there's 2 of you, and there's one of you that has, 35 years of experience. It's not as quick anymore on his feet, and there's a one that comes in that knows all the computers, for you it's like if you don't understand anything. They understand everything, but they don't really know how to use it, like what to do with it. So that's often we have this. We hire new players, they're very young, they have technique, incredible technique, they never make mistakes playing, but they play at the wrong place. And when I said the wrong place, not in a, we do bam, and they go, bam. It's not like that. It's just there's a way of playing together. And that's something you learn. It's an art form. To breathe together and to all play together, especially when it's fast. When we go, pa, 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 we're doing that this week. That's the notorious beginning of a symphony. That's why I put it on the first concert. You're going to see that's the most notorious beginning of a symphony to do well. And we have a plan. We're doing good. Our principal second violinist here, Merwin, hello. Very happy to see you. See you a little bit later. And they have the most difficult part. And we talked a little bit about the strategy, how we're going to do this, and it's going to go very well. But the important thing is to have a plan. Yeah? When you have a plan, things work better. So we have to manage this, but we have to manage about 80 people together. 60, 85, 100, depending on the piece, at the same time. So when I say managing the human capital, is that you manage those people at the same time. So sometimes, even the section, I showed you the strings that are this section that was in blue like this. It was in red. And then the blue and the winds. They need to be addressed differently, depending on the instrument that you play. Because remember, we're a microcosm of society. We don't all react the same way. And they react, there's a kind of a section reaction also. Like strings, they work hard. They would rehearse until the show and they'd play the show. Brass would be, please don't ask me to play anything the day of the show. So you have to put those together and find which is the best, what's the middle ground where everybody actually feel they can do their job. Anyway, we can do in a Q&A after if you want a little bit more of that. Okay, let me continue. Okay. So, the conductor at work. We're talking about managing talent in real time. I touched a lot on that, about how we deal with the things that come up. That's new. That's the last 20 years, I would say. Because conductor used to think that a good performance builds the self-esteem. But not a good performance while you're scared for your life. I'm exaggerating sometimes. But to build your self-esteem is to have a good moment in a rehearsal, to have something that works together, to feel that, okay, I'm valued. I play, the 8th person in the section, but, the conductor looks at me, because often, you see those old videos with the carry-on with Berlin, he conducts, his eyes are closed, just going like this. The orchestra goes, okay, we'll do it ourselves, And that's often what happens. You basically have about, what would you say, 15 minutes when you come to guest conduct an orchestra? About that, huh? 15 minutes to show the musicians that you're worth something as a conductor. You come in, 10, 15 minutes. If bad things happen or nothing happens, which is the worst, or no, bad cues are the worst, but anyway, if nothing really happens, then they go like, okay, because we're a group, we play together all year long. We know to do this together. But if you want to make a difference, or if you want to inspire, because that's going to be our next thing, why the conductor is there also. And that's the main reason when we get to a professional level. So I'll get into that. But managing your talent in real time so everybody feels they're working as a team, and that you're working as a team, like there's 16 or 14 first violins, they're working as a team as one, but each of them are important to the team. And I like to ask the sound in the orchestra that comes like as a wave that comes back like this. So all the players in the back actually have to make a lot of sound. And I remember there's a lot of concept. The more you're in the back, the less we want to see you, or the less you're relevant. It's the contrary. The sound builds like this, and it builds on itself until we get to the front. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, sharing the vision. That's the part that's important at this level. Because when you come in, you can buy a record of Beethoven's Fifth, or you can go with any orchestra. But how does the orchestra in this city, in Toledo, how do we play this? What does it mean to us? To share the vision, to be, as a conductor, being accepted to share his vision with all these players. If we put all the players together, the times they've played this Beethoven Fifth Symphony, I've conducted it, maybe 100 times, but each of them has played it probably, 500 times, or exaggerating maybe, but let's say they all played it 100 times. That's quite a few thousand times more than I've done it, And they all have an idea, because you remember, we hire them because they're artists, so they have an opinion. How do we put all these opinions in one opinion, and one idea that we all do the same? Not easy, huh? So there's one thing that everybody respects, is, are you true to the intention of the genius? And the genius is not the conductor. The genius was some amazing players, but not the players either. The genius is the composer and the person who created that piece. So did the conductor do his homework, or did she did her homework? Did you go and see what kind of idea? Did you read on Beethoven? Did you go see if your group feels, if the orchestra, your colleagues feel that you've truly done your homework, and then they feel they can, okay, this guy's for real, that girl is for real, let's give them a chance. We'll do this together, Because basically you borrow their talent when you do things like that, because they trust you. And if you start making all kinds of crazy things, then we've given you our talent, and you're doing this with that, So it's very important that there's a respect. So I guess the word is really mutual respect. That's really what we're looking for. I'll go shortly on that. A big challenge we have, of course, is developing a new fan base. But I'll come to the last one after that. So the places we go to develop that, we go, of course, sincerity is the most important thing. I guess it's the same in everything. If somebody is sincere when they talk to you, and when they do business with you, and for example, if you have somebody that's a donor or a patron, if somebody's just smiling at you, they don't remember you, they don't have any, connection, and they just go to the next one. So, okay, maestro, But to develop really deep ties with those people, and they're actually, because they're people that make your work happen. They're the ones that make everything possible. And that's important. So the sincerity in that with the donors, with the patrons. When I remember this, again, a hockey analogy. Do you know Wayne Gretzky? Yeah, okay. He's not my favorite. It's okay, but I like him very much. Okay, Mario Lemieux is my favorite, but that's another story. But Wayne Gretzky said that he never leaves the arena before shaking the hand of the last person who wanted to shake his hand after a game. And you will see me at a concert doing exactly that. I'm backstage, and I encourage our players to stick around. Here they do a lot because they're very close to the community. But they're very, you have to be engaged in a way that people know you, you know them, and it becomes a real sense of community. So community in that sense, not community on a checklist where you say, okay, I've been to the school, So, no, it's really you engage like that. The other one, of course, is education. It's very important. For me, my 3 pillars I have and everything I do is the excellence, as I've talked about. Are we rooted in our community? Are we, like when we do the programs, I do them, then I redo them because I talk with my colleagues who've been here much longer than me, of course. And I said, what do you think about that? Then we have a committee that's, okay, things they would like to do, things maybe our public would like to hear. And you see there's a lot of, like I'd say, top 40 orchestra repertoire in our programs, but also there's also a lot of new discoveries. Well, I feel if I'm giving you something that you know already, you'll probably trust me to say, okay, well, what do you want on top of a little discover something? Okay. You respect me, I respect you. We do something like that. So that really helps a lot. And education, of course, is for me, it was my next pillar. So the three: excellence, being in your community, and being part of the mentorship, the educating people. Like tonight, I'm going to the youth orchestra, and nobody asked me. I said, I got to do this. I conducted the youth orchestra in Toronto for 8 years. I mean, it's wonderful because you see people. For us, music starts when you pick up the instrument for the first time. It's a long stream, uninterrupted stream until you become professional, until you become somebody who goes to the concert, a patron to a concert that loves music but that played an instrument. There's not like amateur, medium professional. It's a long stream. So we are all colleagues. So when I go and see those younger people that I don't know, maybe 12, 13, some of them older, some of them younger, they're our colleagues of the future. And it's good for them. They see, oh, yeah, okay, so we are also colleagues. So you can see this starts already there. That's, spreading the good news. It comes a little bit like that. Like board members, they need to know what we do, right? But nobody can know what we do if we don't tell them. Yeah? And on an occasion like this, that's why I'm so touched that I could speak to you today, is that you have an idea of how we do things, and it's important to communicate. Respect communication. It's very funny. These are the two things that lack the most in the symphonic world for 80 years. People would not communicate. You shut up, play. Okay. What do you do? We do something incredible you don't understand. We do this thing that you don't understand and probably are not worthy of, really. But come. Yes, it's like we're going to. No, on the contrary, Mozart couldn't make ends meet because he was just spending money. Was, how do you say, burning his? Burning a hole in his pocket. He had he was not a responsible person. He was a genius, but they're all normal. They all have the great qualities and the faults of their qualities, and they're all humans. Beethoven was very, very human. Okay, and those people, they want to speak to you. And our job is simply to translate what they wrote on paper, the humanity that they took from their soul on paper, and bring them to you. We are translators. We are interprets, right? That's why you say an interprète, interpret in music. And that's that. Oh, speaking of, okay, sorry, that's the other thing at the end. Okay, wow, I didn't see that one. Okay, promo code. Well, good. If you want to come and see Beethoven Fifth. And the rest, we're playing with the Toledo Ballet also. We want to create as many alliances as we can with our colleagues. And we're playing a great piece by Christopher Dietz, who's teaching at Bowling Green and is an amazing musician in his own right. So thank you so much for having me. And if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if they have any questions. Yep. Here. Yeah, it looks like they do. So we'll take your contact.
Yep.
That was an excellent presentation, and I want to welcome you to the Sunshine Capital of the World, Toledo, Ohio.
Thank you.
I want to know, is there a challenging system? Because I've seen changes in the symphony over the years where maybe a person's a second chair and all of a sudden they're in the back. Is there a way of a person that's a member of the orchestra to challenge another person to move in a different chair?
Well, I think this is all part of a transition for some players. I'll give you an example. This last week in Berlin, one of the principal trumpets said, "Okay, I'm retiring from the principal chair." But he's still a great player. But sometimes it's just too much pressure. So, okay, I'm retiring from that. I'm going to play in the second chair, or I'm going to play in the section chair. Very often it comes from them. that they say enough pressure. I've had 30 years of pressure, but I still have some good years to give you. So can I go in the section? But all of this has to be, there needs to be a space in the section for them to go, or somebody that's kind of ready to go up. But to go up, then you have to, there's a mechanism. We are regulated by the American Federation of Musicians, which is pretty much the biggest union, one of the biggest, sorry, maybe I said something. Second biggest? No, third. Okay. Okay, so we're the third biggest union. So yes, there are rules to all of these, but often you see somebody retiring slowly, and I think that's a wonderful way to do it. And if you are wise enough as a musician, if there's place, what's difficult is in section there's no place. For example, if you play, I'm going to pick extraordinary players. So let's say you're the oboe player in your orchestra. They're fabulous. So that's just an example. It says, okay, well, I'm a second oboe. I'd like to move to, no place to move. You have a first and a second. They each play their own part. So in the strings, you can see it sometimes. In the winds, like in that trumpet section I told, well, there are 5. So at least they could switch it around. And the one who was second was very, very good. So they could do this internally. But even internally, there are rules that are under the union. Yeah. So do we have any more?
I guess not.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I will say bravo to that presentation. It was excellent, a great explanation of how the symphony works. Alain, thank you so much. To show our appreciation, the Toledo Rotary Foundation is going to make a donation to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund in your name. Oh, wow. And we also want to welcome you to Toledo with this book about historical tales of Toledo.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please join us next week when our speaker will be Tim Brown with Temacog. There are no committee meetings scheduled for today. Rob, welcome again to Rotary, and Irwin, thank you so much for bringing Rob in. Brian, congratulations on your Paul Harris Fellow. I now would like to invite, he's already there. I mean,
just trying to save time, trying to be efficient. James Fridman is a British graphic designer who is famous for taking requests on Twitter for alterations to photographs, but reliably responding with an image edited to slightly different specifications. So people send, you can't read a damn thing. Here are some of the things that this gentleman does with requests from people to change and improve their photographs. I love your work. Would you clean the stone wall for me? Thanks. That's a picture of James back cleaning the wall. Please, could you make it that my friend is running from something scary? Teletubbies in the background. Could you make this look like we are in more dangerous waters? I want to look cool. I really like this picture, but could you do something with the guy on the right so he doesn't look like he's peeing on his kids? Can you pet me in a Bugatti? I lied and told my friends I got one. Okay. Can you make my right leg longer? It looks very short. Thanks. We love one boy, and I want to send this photo to him. Can you make it that I look great and the other girl in the back looks bad?
Great.
Please, would you hide the gap in my father-in-law's mouth? With thanks. And if you look at his mouth, you can see where it came from. Could you do something with the lady in the background? Can you Photoshop highlight on my face? The contours just look dull without it. There's highlight on your face. Can you make me look like I'm part of the Frozen movie? Just let it go. Nothing wrong with my little bro, but could you Photoshop my mom with a handsome guy? Cheers, LOL. Can you make my dreams of flying a kite properly a reality? It just doesn't want to fly. Notice she has a helmet on, which is good. Just wondering if you could edit this photo of me and my boyfriend. I was hoping you could make his corn dog whole again with no bites taken out. I made a weird fist in this picture. Can you add something in my hand? I'm the girl in the beige dress. Where's Waldo going on? Could you make my head look like it's actually attached to my body? I'm in the orange shirt. Thanks. Nightmares about that one? And finally, can you please adjust this picture in order to make me look as if I'm holding that cliff? And watch her arm. James Fridman.
Thank you, Chuck. Well, I hope you have a great week. Remember, let's be servants out there so we can be the inspiration. We are adjourned.